This will be part 2 of the hip flexibility mobility portion. So the assumption here is we're just going to start right on in tabletop. The assumption here is that you have done an appropriate warm-up for mobility of the hips in weight bearing. So please don't just rush into that and jump into tabletop and move forward from here. You need to take time to do an appropriate warm-up for what it is you're going to be doing now. And that is strengthening combined with mobility. So my recommendation, if you have sensitive knees, is to bring a blanket or something across your mat. And then we will go ahead and just move into a simple tabletop after you've done your warm-up. I'm going to say that again. So we've done our warm-up, and now we're going to be moving a little bit more into mobility and strengthening at the same time, because now we'll be weight bearing. So letting yourself come into a comfortable tabletop, middle finger straight ahead. We want lots of triangles in between the fingers. And instead of letting the bend of your elbow point towards the middle finger, we want to track the thumb. That'll help take any hyperextension or prone to hyperextension out of the elbows. We press gently down into the tops of the feet, so we're more on the bones of the shin rather than into the kneecap itself. We're inviting the crown of the head to project a little bit forward, tailbone to project a little bit backward, and that sensation that the pubic bone and tailbone are looking for each other equally. So we've got a little bit of engagement in the lower belly. So let's just go ahead and sit back, just making sure that the knees are feeling comfortable and ready, and lower back is feeling okay. And just let yourself sink down. You can let go of your head. If your elbows are straight and stiff, let them relax a little bit, so you can find that full roundness in your back. And we'll go ahead and come back up into tabletop. So the hips are over the knees and hands under the shoulders. We're going to take that right foot and put it where the right hand was. So we're in kind of a kneeling position here, half kneeling. And then we're going to take that right knee, you will take that right knee and press it over the toes. We're keeping the heel on the ground. Do you feel some pull in the Achilles? Check to see if all your weight went into the ball of the foot, and as you're sending the knee forward, almost as though you could lighten your toes against the mat as the knee goes forward. We're looking still for the tailbone and pubic bone to look for each other, kind of squeezing pubic bone and tailbone in, and looking for a little stretch or pull through the inner thigh, front of the thigh, sorry. And release a little bit. We'll sweep the shin bone across and come forward again. Chest is still forward, so we haven't turned sideways. And sending forward. And releasing so that shin comes back again, and send the knee. And this time we're going to go ahead and curl the toes and kind of pop yourself up. And very slowly coming all the way up to standing. So we have a rather short distance between the right heel and the left heel. And my left foot's not directly behind the left, it's out to the side. So my feet are actually tracking my seat bones rather than the center of my body. We're looking for sternum to be straight ahead, and check to see if the hips are sideways and chest forward, and the hips are lined up with the front of your mat. You're going to get a little bend in the knee, and letting yourself fold forward. Looking for right ribs to connect with the right thigh. Coming down, letting the chin tuck in, and just gently moving back and forth here. Bending the knee, letting it straighten. If every time your leg straightens, you end up in a candy cane, that means straighten the knee a little less, so you can keep the ribs and the thigh together. And then we'll go ahead and come up about halfway. We're looking for the spine to be as flat as you can get. Check to see if the chin's pointed forward. Want to keep the whole spine. That's all the way through the cervical spine too. And then fingertips can rest on the floor or a block or your shin. If you have a block, you can bring it. Or you can just rest your left hand on your shin. Right hand comes to the hip. And we'll begin to just press that right hip back a little bit. As that happens, it may pull the inside of the right foot off the floor. So as the right hip, right seat bone is being pressed backwards, we're pushing through the center to the inside of the left foot to the ground. That's going to help keep the knee. I'll turn to you to see what I'm talking about. If I pull back on the hip, it can sometimes turn the knee out and pull the arch of the foot off the floor. So we want to make sure the arch of the foot stays grounded, kneecap stays forward over that second toe as you're pushing the hip backwards. So left hand comes to the shin. We're going to come into a revolved movement here. So we're going to turn the chest to the right, but instead of swinging the arm up, we're going to take some of that away. And bringing your hand to the back of your head or just to the top of your head and create that rotation. Right hip pushes back, arch of the right foot is grounded, and finding rotation. As you inhale, turn back to center, you can release your arm. And again, as you exhale, find that rotation and release. And one more time, find rotation and we'll hold. Arch of the right foot, right hip presses back, and making sure the outside of your left heel is on the ground. So we haven't picked up onto the ball of the foot. And we'll go ahead and release. Bend that right knee. Bring the left knee to the floor. Step back. Move a little bit through cat and cow. And then returning to your simple child's pose. Letting the elbows rest on the floor. Crown of the head moves downward. We'll go ahead and rise up. And left foot comes forward. Left knee over the toes. That sensation of pubic bone and tailbone squeezing towards each other. So it's not all tailbone and it's not just the pubic bone. They're looking for each other. And then go ahead and release. We'll do that again, making sure the lightness under your toes as you come forward, so we're not gripping into the ball of the foot. And go ahead and release. And send it forward. We'll take that shin across. Check to see if you turn sideways and keep your chest forward. Go ahead, come up. Let's do that one more time. Take that knee forward, toes are soft, and release. And we'll curl the toes, kind of pop up a little bit, and slowly climb your way to standing. Take your time. So we have that diagonal energy. From the knee to the hip, it's pressing back, and from the knee down to the arch of the foot, it's pressing into the inside of the foot. Little bend, ribs close towards the thigh, and a little straightening and bending, just back and forth a few times. Keeping left ribs and left thigh glued, so you can work the hamstring. And then settling in, left seat bone presses backwards, and sending from the knee down into the inside of the arch, ball of the foot, inside of the left heel. We'll bring that hand to the hip, just give a little press. And then right hand can come to shin, or if you're super flexible, you can keep your hand on the floor. Left hand to the back of the head or top of the head. As you exhale, find rotation. Inhale back to center. Exhale. Inhaling. Exhale. And this time, hold. You can keep your eyes on the floor. You can look out wherever you feel comfortable in your neck. The important thing is to keep that hip pressing back inside of the arch to the ground so that kneecap stays forward. And we'll go ahead and release. Bend the knee, we'll step down, table. Get a little movement through cat and cow again. And then sinking into your child's pose, elbows to the floor. Let's go ahead and climb back up into table. So take a little walk with the hands forward, so the hands are coming one handprint forward. A little more stretched out now. We'll curl the toes, lift up and press yourself back into a walking dog. So this is the first really dog that we've done, so just letting yourself step into one foot and the other. Check to see if you're rolling into the outer edges of the foot, and a little bit more energy to the inside of the foot, keeping those knees straight ahead.
So the center of the kneecaps line up with the second toe. And looking at your right hand, that right foot comes forward. So it may be you want to bring your left foot to the ground and then step forward. Or you may want to just take one big step. So we're looking to end in high lunge here. Last time we were more of a low. This time we're high. We're keeping the left knee off the ground. Check to see if your hips are way high above the back of your neck. You want to try to get the hips in line or just slightly below the back of the neck. So we're sending right knee forward, left heel back, and then finding 45-degree turn. And we'll walk ourselves up just like we did last time. So now our legs are a little further apart. Watch your balance. We've got to keep the inside of that arch grounded. If that left foot is behind the right, you want to make sure they're tracking your seat bones or your hips. Bend the knee a little bit, close your ribs, and bring ribs to thigh. We'll get a little bit of that back and forth again, just like we did. A little more stretched out this time. And then rising up about halfway. Left hand comes to the shin or floor. Arch side glued. Right hip presses back. Right fingertips to the back of the head. And we'll create that rotation again. Exhale. Inhale, and this time reach with your right hand. Left heel's glued. Exhale. Hand to the head, rotate. Inhale, reach right arm forward, left heel glued. Exhale, rotate and stay. Right hip presses back. Right in arch, glued to the ground. That kneecap should be straight in direction of your second toe. One more breath. And we'll go ahead and release. Step into that high lunge. And then back to downward facing dog. Walk it or hold it more stable now if you'd like to. And then we'll take the left foot forward again. You can bring right knee to the floor and climb your way up. Curl the toes back to that high lunge. We want the left knee moving slightly forward, right heel to be pressing back. If the hips are higher than your neck, reverse that. Neck is higher, back of the shoulders are higher than your hips. Find 45. And we'll go ahead and stand all the way up. Making sure the outside of that right heel is grounded and our feet are tracking our hips or seat bones. Get a little bend in the knee and ribs to thigh. And we'll get that little back and forth a few times here. And go ahead and straighten the left leg best you can. Find a half forward fold. Right hand comes to the shin, across the foot or inside the foot or block. And left hand to hip, so that left seat bone goes back, arch of the right foot stays grounded, kneecap lines up with your second toe. And bring hand to hip, and as you exhale, inhale, reach. Exhale, rotate. Inhale, reach. Exhale, rotate. If your balance is off, keep your eyes on your toes. And this last time, as you rotate, will stay. And release. Come to that high lunge again. Knee to the ground. And we'll step back, down dog. Coming forward to plank. Knees to the floor. Letting yourself come forward. We'll lift a little bit into a baby cobra. So we're keeping the belly button on the ground here and just getting the upper back a little lifted. Pull yourself 1/4 inch forward so you can feel this in the tricep. And lift up and back into your child's pose. Let's go ahead and come right onto the belly now. So you're coming down, stomach on the ground. Let your arms open apart so you can rest your forehead on your hands. And release. Come to that high lunge again. Knee to the ground. Inhale, reach. Exhale, rotate. Inhale, reach. Exhale, rotate. If your balance is off, keep your eyes on your toes. And we'll get that little back and forth a few times here. And this, you may want to just watch once to see what this is. And pick the left leg up off the ground, if you can, all the way up through the thigh. Rotate, so now the left knee is turned outward. Left knee draws up as high as you can towards that left elbow off the ground. Exhale, stand it back, knee rotated, turn center and release. To the other side. Right leg lifts up, rotate it, draw right knee up towards right elbow, off the ground. Exhale down, rotate, bring it to the floor. Lifting, rotate, draw it up, extend, turn to the ground. Right side, rotate, draw it up, extend, and to the ground. Lifting up, rotate, pull it up, and this time we'll stay. Extend, and to the ground. Take a breath. Right leg, rotate, draw the knee up and hold. Extend, and take to the ground. Sliding hands underneath, lift up, find that baby cobra again. And peeling yourself up off the floor. We'll move through some cat-cow. And release neutral table. And your left leg extend. Use your hands just to press gently into the calf. And we'll release, drawing the knee back. And then the other side. Press gently into the calf. And release. Now open the knees apart. And let yourself sit back. Finding downward facing dog. Right foot steps forward, low lunge. I'm going to sit back onto that left heel and sit down. So the heel's to the outside of your ankle, of your hip, sorry. And walking your hands back, squeezing that left seat bone down into the floor, just letting yourself go back as far as you're comfortable. We'll hold for a breath or two. Everybody will be in different places. Some people are flat on their back. Some people are a little more upright like this. And we'll go ahead, sit back up onto your heel. Climb all the way up. I'm going to rotate on the ball of that foot and left heel is out. And let's go ahead and come back into that low lunge. And we'll do that again. Just rotate so you just feel how you got there. Heel is off the ground here. Hold and breathe. And we'll go ahead and turn back, stepping back, downward facing dog. Left foot steps forward, finding low lunge, just kind of calming the body down a little bit. Sinking back into that heel. This time the right heel's to the outside of the right hip. Letting yourself sink back as far as you feel like you can. Take your time. I'm not going to go back very far because I feel like if I do, people will try to do the same. I really want you to protect this knee and this whole connection between the thigh muscles and the knee. Just make it be smart. And we'll go ahead and come all the way up. Sit on that heel. Come forward, low lunge. And then we'll make that pivot. I'll turn my back to you. We're going to come down. Let's do that again. Knee to the ground. And then find that pivot again. And this time we'll stay. So my heel is off the floor. Stretching through the ball, through the sole of the foot. Kneecap is pointed upwards. So we haven't rotated the foot or the knee out. Keeping it up. And we'll go ahead and just come back. And releasing table. Finding a little cat-cow here. And then we'll go ahead, just let yourself turn around and come onto your seat bones. Bring the soles of the feet together, getting a little bit of a forward fold here. Don't have to go very far. And notice my heels are not up against the groin. I've got about 12 inches to 18 inches between heel and groin, so they're pretty far out there. And letting yourself sink as far forward as you can. And we'll go ahead and come all the way up. Knees come together. So the arches of the feet together, the insides of the knees are together, and we're sitting as upright as possible. And we'll take the arms up and overhead. And letting yourself come into a twist as that left arm kind of comes around and coming into a twist. Go ahead and turn back to center. Let your knees open apart and come forward. And same thing to the other side, taking both arms up. Knees are together. Just keep thinking of trip to Bali tickets between those knees. And then turning to this side. And we'll go ahead and come up, letting the knees float apart. And we'll go ahead and come all the way up, knees close together. Closing the knees, bringing the hands to the heart this time, and turn to look to the right. Keep the knees together. So the knees are squeezing in as we're looking right. Go ahead to center, reach up, maybe interlace your fingers and push through. Knees are squeezing together. And we'll bring the hands back in front and turn to the left. Knees squeeze together. Notice if one knee is coming behind the other, we want to keep those kneecaps lined up with each other as we make this turn. Knees squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. We'll go ahead and turn back to center, taking both arms up and overhead. Knees open apart and forward fold. Again, feet are way away from you. And we'll go ahead and sit all the way up, closing your legs, letting your legs stretch down the mat. You can bend your knees as much as you want. You can wrap your hands underneath your legs if you'd like to. If you want to get that last deep forward fold in, go ahead. If you're kind of tired and you're ready just to focus a little bit more on stretching out the lower back, just stay right about here. I'm going to stay here for me. Big breaths down the spine, as though your breath can come in the nose and down the back of your neck, down in between the shoulder blades, down to the waist. And as you exhale, it's coming up over the pubic bone, squeezing out through the belly, chest, breathing in through the nose and back down. The neck, the back, tailbone, exhaling up the front of the body. Following the movements of the diaphragm. And the next time you start to inhale, slowly coming up till you're all the way up, nice and straight, just letting your hands rest behind you. Maybe give yourself a little bit of a shoulder pull, the shoulder blades together a little bit. Just lifting up, not a strong staff pose, just something that you feel comfortably supported. And then we'll go ahead and let yourself roll down to the floor. A little bit of movement from side to side. And then taking feet to ceiling, letting the ankles roll around, letting the hips just comfortably accept the weight of your legs. The knees are soft. And go ahead and bend the knees. And taking arms overhead, soft elbow, soft knee. And as you exhale, bringing everything back down into the center. Do that 2 more times. Inhale, soft knees, soft legs. Exhale. Inhale, taking over. Exhale, back down. And then we'll finish with that little up and down the back. you'd like to, you can let the eyes begin to close. If you'd like to, you can let your elbows rest on the ground and just letting the movement be in the legs and the hips. Unlocking the jaw. And then the next time your feet come to the floor, we'll get a little bit of a lift here, just a little bit. Just get some pressure into your shoulders, a little stretch or straightening through the hips. And then slowly coming back down. Drawing just your right knee in. And then letting it slide down the floor. Drawing just your left knee in. And then letting it slide down the floor. If you'd like to, again, doing legs up the wall after a lot of hip movement is a great place to end your practice, or just being here, maybe a bolster under your knees. Making sure your clothing is comfortable and settling into your Shavasana. We want to make sure that we're spending a little bit of extra time in the hips and in the legs. Making sure we're letting down as much as we can. If you come into a place that seems like it's just still a little tight, focus on the opposite side of the body. So if the right hip still feels tight, think about the left side, inviting the left side to let down. And then coming back to the right. This is not the time to get into an argument with our bodies. We're inviting it to let down. Just relax. Recognizing at this point there's no more tasks to do, nothing to move. The only thing that needs to move is our bodies as we breathe, and that just happens all by itself. Inviting the eyes to be softly closed if you want to. Inviting the muscles of the face to let down expression. And from here, taking as much time as you need in your Shavasana. You can stay here 6 to 10 minutes. If you fall asleep, that's okay.